Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time to review The Father, recently nominated for Best Picture as well as 5 other awards at the Oscars. You know, I saw the movie over a year ago, but you have been waiting a very long time. I've been hyping up Hopkins' performance in Sundance. Since I saw it, I said there's no way he loses the Oscar because he's that good. He's giving an all-time great performance. If I watched this before Bozeman happened, I would have said, no way anybody else is winning the Oscar. And I actually still think it's the best performance of the year. Maybe Frances McDormand in Nomadland would be up there too. But I think this is like amazing. Yep. I also think Olivia Colman is doing some masterclass work as well. Mm-hmm. The acting is just phenomenal in the film, and they're both completely perfect in it. You get to understand them in really interesting and nuanced ways, and each of them has a lot of different sides to them, which I like, that the performances didn't feel like they were one note. They felt like human beings, very well-rounded. They could be in this mood one day and this in another mood another time, and that's just a very natural thing. That's how people are. I especially feel like you really connect with Olivia Colman's character and what she's going through, and you see her as this good-hearted person that also at times like completely hates her own father, and you understand both of those things. Even the husband's character is very understandable and relatable. The movie overall just does not shy away from the pain that a family would experience, also the pain that an individual would experience when going through something like this. And what's interesting is throughout the film, you feel more empathy for the daughter and her husband having to take care of him than you do for him most of the film. And I think maybe that changes throughout. It's just particularly brutal and sad in a way that I think a lot of films just wouldn't dare to be about, to the point where it almost doesn't even feel resolved. It's just kind of like showing you this kind of experience and how it affects everybody. And there's not really any like silver lining from it. It's not like people learn and grow and like take away a lesson, but that made the film devastating to the point where I think it's like a masterpiece in the way that it does that. Wow. Yeah, I think that the movie does one thing like really well, and it just kind of keeps doing that thing, and the snowball rolls a little bit more, and it just becomes a larger snowball of what it was trying to do. You could say that. I still didn't even expect it to go into, I guess, the heart of the darkness in a way, of the impact it has on Anthony Hopkins' character. There were times when it made me feel the frustration that you'd feel with a loved one who's going through this. But by the end, like, you really empathize with him to the point where you could perhaps be like more patient or gentle in these situations where patience is a very difficult thing to find. So I think there actually is a way in which the film could help people feel like heard who are going through this experience. It's a very hard one to understand. Like, I've never been through it. You would feel very isolated and like nobody could really understand what that's like. Yeah. And so if anything, I think the film is perfect for letting people feel like there's something that gets what this is and isn't sanitizing it for you. Yeah, I think this has got to become like one of the defining pieces of art about dementia, because, you know, you have movies like Amour or Still Alice, which do a really good job showing like the pain that people go through. But even those movies don't achieve quite what this one does, in just how much it puts you in the character's head who's actually going through it and how disorienting that experience is. I don't think there's another movie that really captures that in the same way at all. And so it is definitely a movie that's stayed with me ever since I've seen it. I mean, especially like Anthony Hopkins. And I just, again, I have to stress that I think it's easily just one of the best performances I've ever seen. Like, and Olivia Colman is phenomenal as well. And I'm so glad her potential has been discovered after The Favorite. And I feel like she has so much more to offer. And I'm like super excited to see her in absolutely everything. She's also great in Tyrannosaur. Remember that? Oh, yeah. I love that this got a production design nomination, because the way that they've built like sets that mirror each other was like pretty great. Mm-hmm. And the editing nomination, I think, was well deserved. I'd probably have to read a little more on how they made the decisions in post-production to like kind of shake you up. Because I'm sure there's an interesting story there. But from what I noticed, I loved that they hung on certain close-ups for the right amount of time without cutting back and forth too much. And everything felt very pitch perfect to me. It just knew when to cut and knew who to cut to. And I think that's just very well deserved. What I didn't expect was actually that this film would be very gripping. I don't want to say thrilling, but that is what I am thinking. Like, it was kind of a thrilling movie because it puts you immediately in his shoes. You very quickly become like confused, and this becomes like a very involving film for an audience member, because at every turn it feels like this guy's life is just disappearing, and you feel that kind of desire for him to like be able to grab on something, and things are slipping away. So just as a dramatic piece, it worked really well. I could see a lot of people being, in a weird way, entertained and staying with the film despite its brutal subject matter, because I think that approach of leaving everything kind of in his head is enough to keep you involved as an audience member. And I would recommend it to most people for that reason, unless they just don't want a downer, because it really did make me feel very sad after. Yeah, and I think it might even hit a little too close for people who have like been through it or who have cared for loved ones or maybe entering that period in their life. Like, I'd be nervous to recommend it to somebody like that, but I'm really glad that this got like all the Oscar nominations it did. I think a screenplay win would be deserved as well. The writing was phenomenal, and it worked really well as a movie. It didn't feel like it was just a film play at all. Yeah, which is and that really was the production design. I think that was kudos and hats off to the production designer. I'm glad that got an Oscar nomination also. It's fascinating how Florian Zeller had it performed as a play, turned it into a film, and really made sure to like take advantage of all the elements of cinema to make it stand out in that way. I mean, that's a pretty cool case study right there. It's one of my favorite Best Picture nominees. Give it a 10 out of 10. I gave it an 8 at Sundance. I haven't seen it again. I feel like I could come away with a better appreciation for it again. But since I haven't seen it, I'm not going to like do anything definitive. So just put it an 8.5 right now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Who's your father?